I'm going to show you how to safely and quickly lower your blood sugar over the next few weeks, and also how to avoid the mistakes that can actually raise your blood sugar instead of bringing it down. You may have been told that if you have diabetes, you will suffer from it for the rest of your life, and that your blood sugar will keep going higher and higher each year. If you're depending on drugs to treat your type 2 diabetes, that's exactly what's going to happen. Pre-diabetes will turn into full-blown type 2 diabetes. You'll need more drugs each year as your blood sugar keeps going higher and higher. And the drugs will become more and more expensive as you scale up to the newer drugs when the old ones stop working. That's great news for the drug companies, but not so good for you. Intermittent fasting is a safe and effective way to bring down your blood sugar, reverse your type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes, and get off some, if not all, of your drugs. So what actually happens when you fast? Fasting is not eating or drinking anything that contains calories for a certain period of time. To understand how fasting brings down your blood sugar, you need to know what's going on in your body. When you eat, food goes down into your gut, where it gets broken down into small chunks until eventually you get glucose from your carbohydrates like potatoes, fatty acids from fats like butter, amino acids from protein like beef, and all these go into your blood. When your body sees that all this food is coming in, it releases a hormone, a messenger called insulin. Insulin tells your body to go into storage mode. The portion of your food that stimulates the most insulin is going to be the glucose, generally speaking. The sugar or glucose is first sent to your liver, where it's stored as glycogen. When your liver is full, any sugar that you don't use for energy is turned into fat and stored in your fat cells. Fatty acids that aren't used immediately are also stored in your fat cells, and your amino acids are used to repair and to build muscle. Over the years, most of us have spent more time filling up our fat stores than we have emptying them. It's like putting water in a bathtub. You turn on the tap and your bathtub starts to fill up. If you leave the tap on without pulling out the plug, the water levels in your tub will keep rising until your bathtub overflows and you have water everywhere. And that is exactly what happens in your body. You keep eating foods that make your body produce lots of insulin. So your insulin levels are always high, which means that you're always in fat storing mode. And eventually, the fat stores under your skin become filled to the brim. When your body can't store any more fat under your skin, it starts looking for other places to store this fat. So you'll store fat in your liver, in your pancreas, in your kidneys, in your muscles, right inside your tummy around your intestines. Fat is not supposed to be stored in these places. So when fat accumulates in these organs, they don't work properly. The fat that's stored inside your stomach produces chemicals that are poisonous to your body and cause inflammation. These chemicals also increase insulin resistance. All this makes your diabetes worse. So we have two major problems when you have type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. You have very high insulin levels. You have insulin resistance, where insulin talks to your body, but your body doesn't listen. When you stop eating all the time, your insulin levels come down, your cells aren't drowning in insulin all the time, so your body gradually becomes more sensitive and starts listening to insulin. And then your blood sugar starts coming down and your pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes starts getting better. So what are some of the advantages of intermittent fasting to bring down blood sugar? First of all, it's free. You don't have to pay me or anyone else to fast. You can do it by yourself. You don't have to buy any special bars or shakes or supplements. Forget about what they're trying to sell you. You really don't need any of them, though I might change my tune if I start selling fasting supplements. Another advantage of using fasting to bring down blood sugar is that you can do it with any kind of diet, whether you're vegan, low carb, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can also eat your local diet, the kind of food that you're used to eating. You don't have to look for expensive, exotic vegetables and foodstuffs. Another great thing about fasting is that it's flexible. You choose when to fast and when to eat according to your own schedule. And when your schedule changes, you can change the times that you fast as well. So, what are some of the changes you might expect to see from fasting? You lose fat. Your body will listen to insulin better, so your blood sugar will come down. Your gut health will improve. You'll have more energy. You might be able to concentrate better and think more clearly. Your mood might improve. And if you have fatty liver, you'll see an improvement in that as well. There are lots of different ways to fast, and I'll just mention a couple of them here. There's 16/8 fasting, where you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours of the day. There's OMAD, which stands for 1 meal a day, where you eat 1 meal each day. There's 5/2 fasting, where you eat normally for 5 days and reduce the amount of food that you eat for 2 days each week. Then there's also alternate day fasting, where you eat one day and you fast the next. And then there's prolonged fasting, where you're usually fasting for 48 hours or more. I'm going to concentrate on 16/8 fasting for bringing down blood sugar. Why? First of all, is that if you're just getting started with fasting, it's an easy way to get into it. And two, you can easily fit it into your lifestyle. So with 16/8 fasting, you take your day, which is 24 hours, and you divide it so that for 16 hours, you don't eat anything, which leaves you with 8 hours. And it's during this 8 hours of the day that you would eat all your food. So we can say that you have a 16-hour fasting window and an 8-hour eating window. For example, you could start eating at 12 noon and stop eating at 8 p.m. So that's 8 hours of eating. Then from 8 p.m., you wouldn't eat anything again until noon the next day. So that would be 16 hours of fasting. So you've eaten for 8 hours and you fasted for 16 hours. So how do you actually get started with fasting? If you're completely new and you haven't done it before, then I would suggest that you get into it gradually, slowly. This way you have fewer side effects, which will make it easier to stick to so that you can make it part of your lifestyle and something that you can do for the long term. I would suggest that you take a few weeks to allow your body to adjust and get used to fasting. If you have type 2 diabetes, you may have been encouraged to eat 3 meals a day and have lots of snacks in between. If that's your starting point, then for the first week, you're going to eat just 3 meals a day, morning, afternoon, and night, with no snacks in between. Stick to natural food, which will be more satisfying, so you won't feel hungry all the time. In the second week, then you do all your eating in a 12-hour window. So that means that if you finish eating at 8 p.m. at night, you won't eat anything again until 8 a.m. the next morning. Then at 8 a.m., you can start eating and then stop eating at 8 p.m. in the evening. So that's 12 hours of eating and 12 hours of fasting. And you will do this for 1 week. Then in the third week, you'd start shrinking the time during which you're eating and extending the time that you're fasting. You can do this by making your breakfast later by 1 hour every day, so that if you usually have breakfast at, let's say, 8 a.m., then the next day you can shift from 8 to 9 while sticking to your dinner time. The next day, you can shift from 9 to 10 and keep shifting your breakfast until eventually you get to 16 hours of fasting. For some people, shifting breakfast isn't very practical, so you might try shifting your dinner time by 1 hour each day. That's, you make it earlier by 1 hour. If this still doesn't fit into your lifestyle, then you can just go ahead and skip breakfast and have an early lunch. And that will help to extend the period when you're fasting. What you eat during your eating window is really important because it will affect how you feel when you're fasting. When you eat, focus on natural food. That will make you feel fuller for longer, so you won't feel like snacking all the time. So you'd be eating a lot of protein like meat, fish, chicken, and eggs, a lot of fiber, especially green leafy vegetables and other vegetables, and natural fats like you have in eggs again, in butter, in ghee, in yogurt, in avocados, olives, etc. Avoid very sweet fruits like mangoes, like pineapples, grapes. And you can still eat starchy food like rice, noodles, yam, and potatoes and pasta, but these should be a very small part of your meal, or you may choose to cut them out altogether. Avoid foods like breakfast cereals and instant oatmeal, sugar in any form, including honey, soft drinks, food made with white flour like white bread, cakes, biscuits, pies, and all that. I have a document for you linked in the description that you can download that gives you all the different groups of food and which ones to eat more of and which ones that will raise your blood sugar the most, the ones to avoid, and you can get all that in the description. So, what can you eat and drink while you're fasting? If you want to be really, really strict about fasting, the only thing that should be going into your mouth is water. But there are a few other things that you can take, especially if you're new to fasting, that can help you cope with hunger without cancelling out all the beneficial effects of your fasting. So you can have coffee or tea without milk. You can drink it plain, or you can add 1 teaspoon of cream, butter, coconut oil, ghee, or MCT oil. You can drink green tea or other herbal teas like peppermint tea, like moringa, like hibiscus tea. You can have a little bit of lime or lemon juice in water and have that either hot or cold. You can add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to a glass of water and you can drink that. You can also have some homemade broth or stock. That would be bones of meat or fish, above ground vegetables that are boiled, and you drink the water from that. Avoid ready-made packaged stock and broth because these are full of all sorts of preservatives and thickeners and other additives. And you might be asking, how long does it take to reverse diabetes or put it into remission so that you don't need to take medicines anymore? This depends on a couple of things. For example, how long have you had it? How high is your blood sugar? How old are you? How many different strategies are you using to lower your blood sugar? The longer you've had diabetes, the higher your blood sugar, and the older you are, the more difficult it is to reverse. So it's really different for everyone. Some people may manage to do it in 6 months, some people may take up to a year, and some people even longer than that. Now we come to a very important part of fasting when you have type 2 diabetes, and that is the medicines that you're taking to lower your blood sugar. These drugs were given to you, they were prescribed for you based on your lifestyle, on your diet, on your blood sugar at the time when you saw your doctor. So when you do anything to bring down your blood sugar, either by fasting, by changing your diet, or exercising more, you're changing that delicate balance between the amount of medicine you're taking and the amount of sugar in your blood. When you have the same dose of medicine working on a lower blood sugar, what's going to happen? The drugs are going to push your blood sugar so low that eventually you'll faint and become unconscious. And that can be so deep, so severe that you don't wake up again. There are some drugs that are more likely to cause very low blood sugar. These include insulin, sulfonylureas like diamicron, amyryl, and diabetes, for example. Some drugs are less likely to cause very low blood sugar. Drugs like metformin, that's glucophage, like Januvia and Galvus, like Invokana and Jardiance. If you're in doubt about how much of your blood sugar medicine you should take on a fasting day, it's always better to lean towards taking less medicine than taking more. And you need to test your blood sugar 2 to 4 times a day, depending on the length of your fast, to make sure that your blood sugar isn't dropping too low. Signs of very low blood sugar include palpitations, where you feel like your heart is pounding in your chest, shaking, sweating, dizziness, confusion, and you might feel really hungry. So you should have these signs at the back of your mind, and people close to you should know about these signs as well, so they can help you if you're in trouble. If you start having any of these symptoms, break your fast and eat or drink something that has sugar in it, like crackers or bread or soda, a soft drink. And if you're fasting, you should always have these things around in case of emergencies. As your blood sugar drops, your doctor may need to change the type of medicines that you're taking and the doses. And again, when it comes to taking medicine, fasting can lower your blood pressure. So you should check your blood pressure at least every few days to make sure that it's not dropping too low. At some point, your doctor may need to reduce the dose of medicine that you're taking for your blood pressure as well. You can take most types of medicines when you're fasting, but of course, you need to get advice from your doctor. And there are some drugs that you have to take with food, like metformin, iron tablets, and some others. And I'll give you suggestions about what to do in those situations and what to eat that won't mess up your fast too much. So you can take 2 to 3 tablespoons of chia seeds and put that in water. And what happens is that it swells up and forms a kind of jelly or glue, and you can take that with your drugs. You can also eat half an avocado. You can have a small bowl of salad, mostly greens. You could have a cup of bone broth with a tablespoon of butter or coconut oil or ghee. If there's a slow release or extended version of the medicine that you're taking, your doctor may be able to put you on that, because then you'd probably only have to take it once a day instead of maybe twice or 3 times a day. And then you can adjust your eating window so that it can coincide with when you take your medicine. Now we come to another important part of fasting. So you fasted for 16 hours and now it's time to eat. You need to be really careful with the first meal that you eat after fasting, because if you get it wrong, you end up feeling bloated and gassy for the rest of the day. During your fast, your body will have started adjusting more towards using fats for fuel rather than sugar. So the last thing you should do is to dump a whole load of sugar and starch into your system when your body isn't ready to handle it. So to start with, your first meal shouldn't be too big. And second, you should eat more protein like fish, eggs, chicken, meat, and some vegetables. This kind of meal will stop your blood sugar from spiking too high while your body is still adjusting to burning glucose again. So for example, you could have some grilled chicken with a salad. So let's look at some common mistakes that I see people making when they're fasting. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make, especially if you're just getting started with intermittent fasting, is not getting enough salt and other minerals in your diet. I know, everyone's telling you that you should avoid salt because of high blood pressure. But when you fast for a long time, you're actually losing more salt, more potassium, and more magnesium in your urine. And if you're not replacing these minerals, you're going to feel terrible. You'll feel nauseous. You might actually vomit. You might have headaches. You might have muscle cramps and muscle weakness. You might feel really dizzy, especially when you stand up. You may have low blood pressure, and you'll feel restless and irritable. You don't have to rush to buy supplements. You can actually eat lots of natural food that has magnesium and potassium, and then add a little bit of salt to those foods. So you can eat nuts like almonds, Brazil nuts, and cashews. They're a bit higher in carbs than other nuts. You can eat more seeds like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. You can eat more fish like mackerel, tuna, salmon, and sardines, and eat lots and lots of dark green leafy vegetables. And then you can have some bone broth, a little bit of dark chocolate, some avocados, and all these are really great sources of minerals. You can also have some unsweetened yogurt, some cheese, and if you find that you're still having lots of muscle cramps, you can add a magnesium supplement. Magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, and magnesium chloride are effective and they are affordable. Magnesium glycinate causes less diarrhea than some of the other types of magnesium. Please don't bother with magnesium oxide because that is a complete waste of your money. So on to the second mistake you might be making while you're fasting. When you fast for a long time, your insulin levels will come down, and this will make you lose more water from your body in the form of urine. When you don't have enough water in your body, you'll feel dizzy, weak, and very irritable. I'm not going to tell you that you have to drink a gallon of water, that's almost 5 liters of water every day. That would be silly. If you're in a hot climate where you sweat a lot, you're obviously going to have to drink more water than someone in Iceland, right? And then the amount of water that you need will change each day depending on your activities. For example, if you exercise and sweat a lot, you're going to need more water. And if your urine is a light yellow color, you're probably getting enough water. If it's very dark, kind of dark yellow or orange, then you're likely not drinking enough water. And you can drink other fluids apart from water, like unsweetened herbal teas and bone broth, to help replace that water that you've lost. On to the next mistake. If you're trying to lose weight, you might feel like eating very small meals during your eating window will help you lose weight faster. Or if you're trying to lower your blood sugar, you might think that if you eat less food during your eating window, your blood sugar will come down faster. Well, by fasting and then eating very small meals during your eating window, you're basically starving yourself. And this means that you won't be getting enough vitamins, enough minerals, enough antioxidants. So you're more likely to get sick and have lots of infections over and over again, like, frequent coughs and colds. You might not get enough healthy fats to make hormones, so your libido will drop. And your muscles may waste away because you're not eating enough protein. And if you find yourself in this position, you may need to just stop fasting. Go back to eating 3 normal meals a day and rebuild your body. Once you're feeling better, you can return to fasting slowly and gradually. On the opposite side, seeing as you've been fasting and quote unquote depriving yourself, you might feel like treating yourself during your eating window, feasting. When you turn it into a celebration and basically eat everything that you want to eat, not a good idea. If you're in your 20s, you might get away with it, but for those of us that are older, this might not work. During your eating window, avoid cakes, pies, biscuits, bread, potato chips, and all these other junk foods. You should never make up the biggest part of your meal with these foods. Instead, eat mostly natural food. Otherwise, you might find that instead of losing weight, you're actually gaining weight while you're fasting. And then eat slowly and actually enjoy your food. It takes time for your brain to catch up with your stomach. When you eat fast, by the time your brain sends you signals that you're full, you've already eaten too much. So you may end up putting on weight even though you're fasting. The next mistake is about your eating window. So let's say you're fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8 hours. Fasting is flexible, yes, you can choose a time of day to put your eating window. But eating late at night can raise your blood sugar more than eating the exact same food in the morning. Insulin is the messenger that helps to lower your blood sugar. We've talked about that. And your body is more resistant to insulin at night. So it's better to push your eating window as early in the day as you can. This next mistake is one that people often miss because they can't really see the obvious connection with blood sugar. But just one night of bad sleep can make you insulin resistant and raise your blood sugar the next day. So you're basically cancelling out a lot of the benefits you got from fasting. And there are some really easy things that you can do to make sure that you sleep better at night. Avoid drinking anything that has caffeine after 12 noon. And if you're sensitive to caffeine, just cut it out altogether. You'll find caffeine in coffee, but also in some types of teas, energy drinks, sodas, and soft drinks, even the sugar-free ones. Turn off bright lights in the evening and avoid screens up to 1 hour before going to bed. And then do something relaxing before bed, like stretching or reading a book or listening to calming music.